morning, sun. How are you? Skies above. Gee, it's great to be alive and love. Good, good, good morning, sun. Good, good, good morning. Good, good morning. Good morning, sun. How are you? Skies above. Gee, it's great to be alive and love. Good, good, good morning, sun. Good, good morning, light. Good morning, sun. How are you? Skies above. Gee, it's great to be alive and love. Good, good morning, sun. Good, good morning, sun. Good morning, light. Good morning, sun. How are you? Skies above. Gee, it's great to be alive.
And good morning. It's an attempt at a good morning. Happy Friday. This is going to be one of those days. And I have two cats. They are feral strays that we adopted through a shelter. We thought we knew what we were getting into. We thought cats, they're easier than dogs. Oh my gosh. They are like, when we try to go to bed, the lights go out, they turn into absolute banshees, screaming through the house, meowing, scratching stuff. It is like a football team is jogging around our house. It is so unbelievably loud. We literally can't sleep. So we tried closing the doors of the bedrooms. Well, then they just scratch at the doors, and it is the wildest thing in the world. Anyway, so I'm a little tired this morning. So let's see if I can get through this in 20 minutes, which I'll explain why. So happy Friday. I wanted to talk about the concept of Docker, BC containers, and BC Insider in the context of AppSource development. Before we get there, Docker, you check out my blog, blog.steveendo.com. I wrote a blog about a tweet that Tobias Fenster shared where he found a Microsoft announcement related to Windows Docker container runtime support, aka Docker Engine or Docker Engine Enterprise or Docker Enterprise Engine, Docker EE, whatever you want to call it. Microsoft, because a company called Mirantis bought Docker, I guess, back in late 2018 or 2019, I can't even remember now. Microsoft is now kind of divesting itself of having to deal with supporting its own version of this. And so it's saying, hey, go get support from Mirantis. Totally fine. But that's left us in a little bit of a limbo, certainly in the BC space, because we're pretty heavily dependent upon Docker, and I use Windows Service, so Docker Engine Enterprise is relevant for me. If you use Docker Desktop, I don't think this affects you, but if you're looking to use Enterprise on Windows Server, check out my blog post. There are options, but it's going to be a transition for all of us. And so in kind of the TLDR here is Mirantis has a blog post offering a beta transition of sorts for Windows Server users who want to transition over to their Mirantis container runtime for Windows Server. 1 to 9 nodes will be free, but they emphasize no support is included in that $0 price tag, understandably. Or if you have 10 to 50 nodes, they charge $50 per node, but also provide no support with that package. If you want support, or if you have more than 50 nodes, contact them and they'll figure out pricing. And it sounds like they're trying to figure this out as well. Like, how do we price this? How do we make money and sustain a business? I totally get it. So I have not needed any support for Docker itself, whether that's Docker Engine, Enterprise, or Docker Desktop. It's worked okay on Windows, both Windows 10 and Windows Server. So I'm not sure what type of situation would necessitate support. Knock on wood, I have not had an issue. The only challenges I have had is figuring out how to use BC Container Helper. I've had a few errors while trying to create a container, and those were either specific to my environment. I happened to trigger a very edge case bug in BC Container Helper, or I had different Windows versions going on, and that required different configuration or help from Freddie in terms of figuring out what I was doing wrong. But other than that, everything's worked flawlessly. Fingers crossed, knock on wood. So anyway, if you will use Windows Server, Docker Enterprise, this is the offer. I recommend checking out their article and their offer. And this is available, I think, until September 2022. Something like that. You need to take them up on this offer. So read up on that if you are planning on using Windows Server. Now, I personally strongly recommend Windows Server and Docker Enterprise, or now Mirantis Container Runtime, instead of Docker Desktop, because our developer encountered an issue with the new version of Docker, and many people have had this issue in the last couple of weeks, and we burned an entire day, probably more than a day, where we could not complete an AppSource app and get it tested in order to publish it because of a new random issue with Docker Desktop 4.01 on Windows 10. And it turns out it's like some Windows Defender issue. So maybe not even related to Docker Desktop, but it affected our ability to create a new container. So I never had this issue with Docker Enterprise on Windows Server. So we are moving to Windows Server. So that's why I recommend it. And many other people have had random weird issues and difficult to troubleshoot issues on Docker Desktop. So I prefer to play it a little conservative, happy to pay $50 a year or whatever it is in order to avoid entire days of downtime due to this. Okay, so related to using Docker, using BC Container Helper, and doing development for Business Central, a while back I'd asked, well, what is the lead time that we get on new Business Central versions when using BC Container Helper to develop? If 18.5 is going to come out, how much lead time do we have when we build these containers such that we can have the new version, 18.5, the next minor, we can test against it, find any issues, and push a new version of AppSource? And I didn't know. How much time do I have to test on next minor? And then how much time do I have to test on next major? And how much lead time is available if I use just the standard BC Docker images, latest or whatever that tag is. And then if I were to use BC Insider, if I'm not part of BC Insider, for instance, or you're not, what is the incentive to sign up for BC Insider, which is free, very easy to do. I think it's just an email that you request. And then you get the access to the key, SAS key, whatever that means, storage account key. So what is the difference of that for those lead times? And so I have been collecting numbers, and while I'm doing that, let me try to pull up my VM. Okay. And I have been trying to figure out, how much lead time do we get for standard images between when those Docker container images are available and when those release. And I'll show you my logs. Every single day, my containers get rebuilt, and I log the old version and the new version. So I know exactly which day a new container build or container image was available. So the standard images, on July 3rd, I got access to 18.3. That's kind of when I started logging this in detail. And I checked my email for when my Business Central SaaS environment was upgraded. It was upgraded July 16th. So there's only a 13-day difference between when I got that BC Docker image through the standard latest release and when my environment was updated. That's not a lot of time. 18.4 was August 26th. My tenant or environment was upgraded September 10th. roughly 14 days, let's say. 18.5, I got the image on September 13th. My BC tenant was upgraded September 28th, 15 days. And then 19.0 got access to that BC image on October 1st. And I have not, I don't know when those upgrades are rolling out, but let's say what I'm seeing here is roughly a 13 to 15 day lead time, 2 weeks, not a lot of time. And my BC upgrades, I've not postponed. So you should have, I think it's a 30-day window right now, and going forward with 19.0, I think that's been extended to a 60-day window where you can delay or defer. But that assumes the customer knows they need to do that, and they're going to push that update back in order to accommodate your AppSource app not being ready. Which I don't think that's a viable practice. You know, if you have 100 customers, telling your 100 customers to defer their upgrade for up to 60 days because you're not ready, not a good look. It's just not sustainable, I don't think. So I'm seeing roughly a 2-week lead time here. So what happens if you use BC Insider? And so I only started logging BC Insider around July 20th. So I saw that, let's see, so standard images, we had a release of 19.0 on October 1st. BC Insider had the 19.0 images well before July 20th when I started logging. So as soon as I started logging on the 20th, it was 19.0 images. 19.1 Insider images came down on September 13th, and we still don't have 19.1 images on the standard images. So it's been almost a month now that we've had the BC Insider 19.1, and we don't yet have it in the standard latest builds. So based on this, I'm going to speculate. Let's say that 19.0 came available in BC Insider around July 1st. And then we saw it available in the standard images, the latest images, as of October 1st. So if I'm going to continue to collect this data to see like how things progress in 19.1 and eventually at 20.0, but we're looking at least 3 months as my guess. Could be as much as 6 months, but I don't think we're going to see quite that much. So at least 3 months in this particular case, much better than 2 weeks, right? So conclusion, request access. If you're doing BC AppSource development, even if you're just doing PTE development, request access to BC Insider. It's just like, and that's what the feedback I got was early on. Just, you need BC Insider. I agree. 2 weeks is just not enough to be able to test and assemble and release and go through AppSource and deal with any issues or mistakes or breaking changes or whatever. So request access to BC Insider. There's a link on my blog in the BC resources page. I forget what it is. Let me just look. Blog, Steve Endo, and BC resources link. And if I go to BC Insider, I do not have a link. Okay. Insider. Yeah, I'll have to fix that. So just Google BC Insider. I believe it's, honestly, I can't remember how I get access to it. But I think it might be through my MPN, which, that's a great segue, MPN. So I created a new company. We created a new company, my colleagues and I, in order to publish to AppSource. So that company, we set up a domain, company name, email, all of that stuff, and we use pop email for the time being just to get it set up. We set up our MPN account, and we got access to Partner Center, and then I did all the paperwork to publish on AppSource, and we published on AppSource. Well, then we signed up for, sorry about this, I was trying to get these to stack. We signed up for Office 365 recently, and it took like 2 to 3 weeks to deal with issues there. And I'm thinking, geez, I'm glad I'm not going to migrate my main email address to Office 365 because I don't want to deal with this and the breaking changes. I knew better. I absolutely knew better, but it just, for whatever reason, I didn't think, oh, well, we need to be careful with our MPN account, our partner account, because this could affect things. Sure enough, we switched over to Office 365. We got our email working on Office 365. We are happy because it took like 3 weeks. This is what my partner center looks like right now. It is blank. Everything is gone. Like, we can log into Microsoft Partner Center, but it's like we don't exist. It's like we've never published an AppSource app. I have access to nothing. I think BC Insider was available through this. I don't have that anymore. It's gone. So switching from a Microsoft personal account to a work account through Office 365 wiped everything out. It like orphaned our partner account or disassociated it or potentially deleted it. I don't know. I don't know what the process is. So last Friday, I submitted a support ticket to MBS IT support because I didn't know who I contacted for this. I didn't realize it was an MPN issue. So MBS IT was helpful. They responded within a day and they said, oh, you don't need us. You need MPN support. So you can contact this phone number or submit a URL. Well, I contacted the phone number, and if you call this number, it's like, thank you for calling. We don't accept phone calls. Okay, so this phone number is useless. Lovely. So you have to go to your partner account, which means that you need to be able to log in. If you can't even log in, you can't submit a support case, which is a nice system. Lovely. So I went to this website. I submitted a support case, waited. After a day, I got a response, and it's like, hey, I'm going to help you, but we need to have a call. And that's it. And it's like, let me know when you're available. So I responded. I said, I'm available these times over the next several days. 2 days later, I get this email. Please be informed my working hours, and this is a 12:30 a.m. to 9:30 p.m. That's what, 19 hours of work time? And so I'm like, is that a typo? And that's UTC, and they're telling me I need to translate that back to my time zone. And so completely ignored my email of when I'm available and said, oh, here are my hours. Tough. You need to send me an invite with the best time available. So I sent 3 invites because I'm like, okay, that's a 19-hour window. Are you serious? And I'm like looking at this, trying to figure out the translation on the link that they sent 3 meeting invites, no response. I'm like, okay. So it's been a week, don't have access to my account. I can't publish to AppSource. I hate to be that guy who complains, but come on, man. Like, this is a mess. So I just replied this morning, like, this does not work. Escalated it to the manager and the lead. I'm like, please escalate to someone who works in my time zone who can speak US time zones. Like, pick a US time zone. I don't care. But don't give me a 19-hour random window to guess when you're available. And, who does this? Like pick a country and let me propose some times, but don't make me propose times and then don't respond for a 24 or 48 hours and then start all over again. So I'm guessing, hate to be the cynic, I'm guessing this is a tactic to defer and delay support cases, a very kind of passive aggressive thing. And so I hate to be the person to escalate this and go around them, but if I have to pull the MVP card, which I hate doing, but it's been a week. So imagine customers or other partners who are trying to develop for AppSource who don't have this MVP channel to try and escalate. Like, wow, you have no access to your partner account for over a week. And I suspect if I let this go, it's going to easily drag into 2 weeks. And based on the person's name, I'm going to guess they're in India. And it is my understanding it is India holiday season right now and currently some type of holiday, which means many people take time off. I don't know if that's the reason, but so not pretty. All because we wanted to use a Microsoft product called Office 365 Mail. That's all we wanted. Completely broke our accounts and just, yeah. So there's my alarm for one of the 3 meeting invites that I sent to this person. And I don't think I have a response yet. So I don't know if I need to jump on a call. I don't know if they're going to use my Zoom meeting. And anyway, so I hope you all have a good Friday and have a good weekend and drink some coffee and cherish your Microsoft login while it works. And with that, let's see. Where's my slide here? Okay. Okay. Have a good one. Talk to you later. Oh, wrong button. Let me fade out like a ghost here.
Good, good, good.